This is my 1992 750 SS Ducati. It's compliance to August 92, so that makes it 25 years old. I've owned it since 2002, and as a whole it's been a really reliable bike for me, and I've certainly enjoyed it. However, I don't ride in winter here in the ACT because it's too bloody cold. So I lay it up over winter, and when the weather comes around, I get it back on the road. It's easy as that. Simple plan, works for me. Anyway, I went to fire it up the other day for the first time for a while, and I got no lights on the dash and a funny noise coming from a relay underneath the dash, as in just below the headlight there. Now, to me it's a funny noise. To an electrician it's a relay not getting enough voltage to make it work. So there's a few fixes for this, and the first one I checked was the battery. I took the battery out, took it to a battery place, got it checked under load, etc., and it was a little bit iffy. So convinced that that was the problem, total amateur that I am, I brought a new battery home, stuck it in the bike, and I got the same thing again. No lights and a funny noise. Therefore, where I have to check next is the earth straps, etc. So there's a couple on this bike you've really got to look at, and that's one on the starting motor and one just where the battery negative connects to the frame. Just under here, just right there, is where the connection is to the starter motor. I pulled that off, give it a nice clean, put it back together, and the same symptoms again. Next, coming up a little bit, is just in behind there is where the battery earth connects to the frame. I pulled that off, give that a clean, and put it back on again. Now if you're wondering about this thingy here with the red zip strip, that's my battery. I think they call it a battery dock or something like that. Anyway, I call it a trickle charger. Just keeps your battery alive over winter, charges it nicely, and when it's charged it stops the charge and just keeps your battery good. Anyway, that was a bit of a pain in the backside because it's a really difficult spot to get to. Pulled it off, gave it a clean, and had a test firing, and everything's hunky-dory now. So what I discovered though on pulling the fairing off is the bike's a little bit dirty. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to give it a clean and put it back together again, and we'll fire it up proper to see what happens. Right, the thing with Ducatis is when you lay them up, you find that over winter they have a tendency to foul plugs. So when they're sitting there doing nothing, you can expect a bit of a problem when you start them up after a big break. So that's what I'm going to do in a sec, after I just do a bit of a walk around with my crappy camera work, and we'll fire it up and see what happens. So what I'd be listening for when this fires up is just a slight misfire on one of the plugs. If that's the case, you just simply change the plugs and away you go. Okay, let's see what happens in this old motorcycle. As I say, I don't think I said it actually in this video, but she's a little bit old, just like me, but plenty of good tunes played on an old fiddle. Click, press the go button. No misfires, so I guess the plugs are okay at the moment. well, there you go. What a coincidence. I just happened to have spare plugs laying around, just in case. Anyway, I started the bike up. It ran quite well for 2 or 3 minutes and then started spitting from one cylinder. So one of the plugs is fouled. I stop the bike and I'll change the plugs before it gets too hot. Okay, 2 new plugs, and that's what it sounds like. Running really well, which I expected, and one of the plugs that came out was soaking wet, so it wasn't working at all. So there you go, as expected. Although I really wish I had changed the plugs when I had the fairing off. There's a little bit of a pain in the butt changing that front plug on with the fairing on. But I've had lots of practice and it doesn't take too long anymore. I think the first time I did it, it took freaking ages. Anyway, happy ending to the story. The bike's all set and ready to go for this summer. Let's do a bit of a walk around. Pretty shiny for a 25-year-old motorcycle, but that's because it never gets used. Well, it doesn't get used that much.